So I'm not saying life is perfect, life is easy, because it's not. It's proven to be difficult right now, but it doesn't mean that within that aren't like these gigantic opportunities every day to get out there and to succeed and to do something and to give yourself a win. And if you don't do that right now and you let one day turn into 3 and 3 days turn into 5 and 7 days turn into 8 and 9 and 10 and 2 months and 3 months, you wasted time. And it accumulates. All the wasted time, all the waste opportunities for the whole of your life, it all adds up. So if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast because you're looking for like some motivation or some rah-rah speech or, a quick way to get out the door and, drop your 5K time, well, this isn't it. Sorry. But you can get up, you can get your shoes on, you can get your ass out the door because you need a win today. We all need wins.
Sorry about that, buddy.
Yeah, you just hung up on me. I'm like, man, you really aren't feeling it today, but you're back. And we're back, and it's Monday. It's April 20th, 2020. Welcome aboard. Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 366.
It is 366, and, I was thinking, man, this life of isolation is kind of right up my alley a little bit.
Well, I'm afraid people are going to get a little bit too comfortable with it and maybe start like reverting to like, yeah, I do. I think there's going to be like an easing in process that people are going to have to do with like being around other people, I think. And I think it's going to hinder some people. But you're generally one of those people that you can just kind of hole up in the house and do your thing. And then, there he is. There's Mike Terrali. He's seen on the streets of East Nashville. There's a sighting. Channel 2 News, Joseph Pleasant, come take a look. But yeah, you're that kind of guy. You're that kind of guy that can thrive in isolation. But I think all of us, I think when we kind of like dive in, I think sometimes we convince ourselves so we're like that we got this. Like this is actually a good thing. But I think it wears on us to an extent. And I think as we kind of get into this phase that we're in right now, I think some people might be surprised at the kind of toll it's taking not having like some actual physical interaction with other humans.
Oh, yeah. Can I tell you what freaks me out a little bit? Like I went to the grocery store. I'm going to tell you anyway.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, you're asking for permission. Like you're not going to just go ahead and go right in. Go ahead. Yeah,
I went to the grocery store. Yeah. Kroger. And Kroger over here in Inglewood.
Yep, Inglewood.
You know it well. And it's been packed every time I go there. For one, so that makes me question and wonder, like, are we really isolating because we're kind of all coming together at the grocery store every day? But anyway, that's a whole other matter. Yep. But what I notice is obviously, you look at people differently. Like people are looking at you like, don't get too close to me, bro. Or like, there's not like this natural inclination to say hi. It's kind of this, I'm in a shell, whatever. So what freaks me out is like, is that going to spill over? And I sure hope not, but I just can't, unless there's like a clear ending to this, I just can't imagine. I really do feel like that's going to be a different animal to deal with.
Have you ever been in the transition of a triathlon?
It's similar, yeah.
It is the exact same. Everyone is like, basically right now, like except for no one stays like 6 feet away. But the grocery store now is the transition area of a triathlon. Like you get there and you're on your rack and you like immediately look over and you're thinking, all right, what kind of bikes this guy got? All right, is that faster than mine? Or what kind of wheels you got? What kind of hydration system you got? What's your setup? Do you got any goos taped to your top tube? But then how do you look? Do you look fit? Do you kind of look not fit? Do you got a brand new kit? Is it a fast, like flashy kit? Do you got a disc wheel? Like you're constantly judging, 24/7 judgment. But yeah. I get that. It's not like right now it's more like, hey, is that person coughing or do you look sick? Or hey bro, keep your 6 feet. I'm generally a 6 foot away person guy anyway, except for when I come in for a hug. I'm a space guy. Like give me my space. I like that. I think we should go around and maybe everyone should watch like the Seinfeld episode of The Seidler, and everyone should be required to wear Tic Tacs in their pocket so everyone knows when everyone's coming around the corner and you can kind of keep your distance and make sure that no one is getting interfered with.
I just don't know, man. Came around the corner a couple of times and got really close to people, and it was like this awkward moment of, well, I'm sorry that I'm so close to you. It's like, maybe there'll be no fights. No more contact
I don't know,
whatsoever.
man, dude. It's all really interesting to me. Like I've said this in like multiple podcasts already, but like the amount of like outgoing support and like friendliness of our neighbors is like gone through the roof. Like everyone is like basically opening up their garage door, walking outside, and just kind of being like, oh hey, kind of fiddling with something, waiting for like their neighbor to like pop their head in the corner, like, oh hey, how's it going? Hey, how you feeling today? You doing pretty good? Did you check your mail? I saw your
check your mail.
over. It's like everybody, like we've been out front. We're super lucky. Like I love the street we live on. It's just one street with cul-de-sacs on both ends, like 50 houses, and we have really awesome neighbors. But like even like some people on the other end of the cul-de-sac, they'll drive by and they're just like stopping, rolling their window down. And this may or may not be a good thing, but they're rolling around like, hey man, how you guys doing today? And we're like, we're pretty good. And then we kind of think, wait a minute, do we look like we're struggling that bad? With like hanging out up front? Because it's kind of like Groundhog Day with like, we've kind of joked about that with a couple of our neighbors. It's kind of like, yep, here we are again outside of front with Hayden. He's going to go through his usual routine, which means on 2.5-minute intervals, he's going to play with his weed eater, then his blower, then his mower, then his scooter, then hop on his bike. We're going to put his helmet and make a couple trips. We're going to get his golf clubs and his soccer ball. He's going to play football, then back to the weed eater, back to the golf clubs, and we're going to rotate through all those in about, like again, every 2.5 minutes for about 2.5 hours. And then we're going to play garbage man. Like we pulled weeds the other day, and now what he wants to do is put all these weeds in a bucket. Then he wants to carry the bucket and put it somewhere, and then he wants to dump the weeds out and then rake them back up and put it back up again. So that's So I guess I get it now that I say it out loud. I get why he's asking it for okay. If how we're doing. But no, it's hey, it's an interesting time. I think we're all going to come out on top of it. I do feel like that. There is maybe this is the optimist in me again. I feel some light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how. It's not a super bright light. It's
shine
not,
it, baby, shine it on the world.
I just feel it. I've reached out to a couple race directors that I know and a couple people that I generally trust that are what I would consider in the know. And I think the next 60 to 90 days are going to be incredibly telling. I think, and again, like that was kind of one of the directions we wanted to go with the podcast today is, kind of like how difficult it's been.
Wait, I just caught what you said there. The next 60 days to 90 are going to be telling. What about the next week? Feeling that optimistic?
No, there's not going to be a race this week.
I know. What about next month?
I wouldn't be shocked. I said this in kind of my weekly email to our team this morning that I think if you're itching to race and you want to get out there and do something and you want to do it like out on a race course, not in your living room or in your pain cave or whatever you want to call it, with like the virtual series that a lot of companies are putting on, which I think are great, and they're a good thing to put on right now to keep people kind of engaged and motivated and kind of on point. I think running races and trail races of 250 to 300 or less are going to start taking place at the end of May. I don't have any like inside scoop on that, but I feel like as we kind of find, and when I say we, I mean not me and you. When I say we, I mean like I feel like when the governing bodies and the people that are in charge of making sure that companies come in and boost the economy, I think they're going to be faced with some difficult decisions as we continue to get more information about what's going on and how we can kind of progress and how we can open up the economy. You're going to have cities and venues in specific states that are going to make decisions that think, all right, like when they sign a contract for these events, the biggest thing they look at is how many people are going to come into my town and how much money are they going to spend and how much is that going to boost the economy. And right now, if you're thinking about it with many of these cities, they're also going to have to take into account, do I want all these strange people coming into my city, which that happens anyway, right? And it's like, do I have the volunteers to be able to help? Do I have the medical resources to give in? Like, so I think it's going to be happen on kind of a state to state level, but I really think that you're going to see some smaller races happen, especially running races where you can do like a time trial format, where let's say there's 300 people and you're going to seed them fastest to slowest, and you're going to go off in like 20-second increments. It'll be very, very easy to not have like, huge groups come together because of that format, and you'd be able to keep your distance, at least to start. But I wouldn't be shocked if you see a triathlon in June. I wouldn't be shocked.
Oh man, that's good to hear, man.
And don't quote me. I mean, yeah, fine, quote me, whatever. I
wouldn't be shocked. That's not going to be a very quotable.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe it is.
Maybe Rivers wouldn't be shocked. He gives a big fat maybe to triathlons happening in June, as if anybody cares what I have to say. I do, but I generally think that you're going to see some races happen, because at some point someone has to make the decision. Let's put it on and let's see what happens. And I think we're all stuck in this difficult phase in our life. Yeah, that has to do with training, that has to do with life, have to do with our professions, have to do with our family. That, as you were kind of alluding to with like the grocery store thing, is like, where do the negative effects outweigh the positive? In terms of like getting out and doing things and seeing people, and like, are you going to be afraid to hug your friends? Are you going to be able to are you going to want to always keep your distance? And and just the mental and emotional and psychological toll it's going to have on us. And so I think that some people in some cities and in specific states are going to make that call. And I think I would not be shocked if some of them make it in June or July and say, we're going to have it. We're going to have I had an athlete this morning who lives in Florida text me and say she got in the pool this morning. They allowed one person every other lane, 9 people at a time, 45 minutes. Yeah, I was like, well, that sounds a little bit strict. But hey, all I'm saying is people are getting, like people are like, we assume, like, so many people assume like you've got two ends of the spectrum. You got people that are thinking, I'm going to race this. There's races this month. It's going to happen. Then you have other people that are thinking, no one's racing this year. I can just tell you right now, no one's racing this year. And you got people investing in like, all this expensive equipment and like what might happen is like in a month, you're not going to need it. So if you're really interested in buying like, swim cords and stretch bands and, VASA trainers and treadmills, like hop on Craigslist in like 30 days. When people realize they may or may not actually need them. But I think there's a chance to happen. It makes it a very interesting time as a coach in terms of like balancing how you're training athletes, where if you think it's obviously no coach has ever been through this. So we're all kind of figuring out on our own and balancing, your family life and your home life and your profession, which is coaching. But then you have athletes who have also never ever been in a situation like this. It's all very new, but it's challenging. I think it's one of, if not the most challenging period I've ever had as a coach in the last 10 years in making decisions about things that you aren't sure are going to take place or aren't going to take place. Like you have a lot of coaches that have already made the call, or a lot of athletes that have already assumed, and you can see it in their training. You can see it in, what their decision making process is like going through, is that like, we're not racing this year. I'm just going to kind of mail it in. I don't really need to do much. I can use that as kind of like my back burner excuse, we're not racing this year anyway. Like what's a day or 2 or 3 or 5 weeks? I'm not doing much. Like it's perfect time to, take time off. And I think it's a reasonable conversation to have in your head, because I think we all have those. We talk about the internal negotiation that we always have, like in training and in racing, and whether it's pain or whether it's convenience, or like, do I want to run today? And like, because we can always very easily talk ourselves out of something. It just makes sense. Like, my legs are a little bit tired, and then, you know what? I'm just gonna spend time with the fam today. I know I can do that. Like, that's always going to be a good excuse. So we always had that, and I think spending time with your family is great. But I think right now, a lot of athletes are going to be surprised when races are going to happen, or races are very well likely could happen, and they're going to be stuck in a space of, all right, well, now what do I do? And I've kind of wasted this opportunity that I've been given to go race, and I just thought and assumed I wasn't. But that's I think the main thing behind coaching right now is that regardless of if there are races or not in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or 6 months, you always want to do a really good job of at least attempting and trying and guiding your athletes towards staying engaged, staying focused, and staying on task. Because no matter when the next races come, no matter when the next person gets on the start line, no matter if it's a small run race or a 5K, no matter if it's a full Ironman, no matter what, we've got athletes that like are doing, are supposed to swim the English Channel this year, and they have no access to a pool. You've got athletes that are doing their first Ironman in a few months and have no access to a pool. And have all these things that but the main thing is like, if your number one goal is to just get better and to just get, and just to not just to maintain, but create and gain better fitness, then you really should never adopt the mentality or the attitude of, I've got plenty of time. Because the truth is you don't. And I see that so many times, even before this whole pandemic thing started, with athletes that they are so frustrated when they get into a groove and then life does happen. Like, I think we've all been there. Our life is going not perfect, but very, very stress-free for the most part in terms of like where our life has been before. And we're just kind of lackadaisical with our training. We can't find motivation for some reason or the other. We can't find the ability and the level of commitment that we want to establish and create any kind of consistency that's going to create any kind of fitness and physical gains. But then we get into the zone, and then like a week or two later, what happens? Life throws a curveball, and you're like, I wish I could just stay in the zone. I wish I could get workouts in. You look back and you look at all the time you wasted, assuming that you always still had time. I can do it next week. Oh, I'll start again Monday. Oh, well, there's next year. You literally never know. You never know what your body's going to do. You never know if you're going to go through surgeries, setbacks. You never know what your job is going to do, if you're going to have job loss, if you're going to have job transfer. You never know what your life is going to do. Are you going to have kids? Are you going to get married? Are you going to get divorced? Are you going to move? All those things are like the main focus and at the core of like the stress that accumulates, good stress and bad stress, that affects our lives in negative and positive ways, that drives the train of energy that is, do we have enough of this to maintain the level of training that we want? And if you have that right now, no matter what, and you have that time and you have the energy, use it. Don't just assume it's going to go to waste. Don't just assume you can just write it off, because if you're on this like journey and you're obsessed with this process of just getting in the work and getting better, then to be honest, races shouldn't matter. Races shouldn't matter. Like, if there is or there isn't, your attitude and your motivation or commitment level shouldn't change. Should you take periods of time to appreciate things differently and maybe reassess your perspective and make better decisions, when things get back to more normal? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean mail it in, and it doesn't mean assume that it doesn't matter, because your level is always going to change. We go through this time every October, November, December, January. Everyone goes through that, what they would call like the off season, and you all are always going to kind of like reset back down to what you would consider your baseline before you start to ramp up again. Well, the name of the game is to restart every year, every phase, every block, every quarter, however you want to look at it, with a higher baseline. You don't want to start at a lower baseline each and every year. And that's what I think a lot of athletes are going to find themselves right now, is they're mailing it in, they're taking so much time off, and they're going to find themselves getting lower and lower and lower on the baseline. That's going to take what? Longer and longer to get back. And that's one of the hardest things right now with coaching, is if you have athletes that have to have a race, to kind of have that, you're one of those guys. You have to have that. You love having that like sense of urgency, like that. I got a race coming up and I'm dialed in, because you are one of a couple other athletes I work with that you were either all the way in or you're probably all the way out. There's no kind of happy like medium, and like
I think put a
it's
plan
true.
in the other day.
Yeah, see, I told you, man. It's like you're either all the way in or all the way. But when you're on and when you're in, you don't miss, you don't make errors, you don't make mistakes. You were dialed in. Like there is, you kind of go silent. And a lot of athletes do, they kind of go dark on me. They're just kind of like quiet. I'm like, hey man, how's it going? And you're like, and you kind of like, I can see you kind of like laughing out loud as you text it with like a snicker, and you're like, dude, I'm in the zone, man. I'm just I'm crushed. I said 2,000 in the pool, man. I'm in the zone. And then you have this other, on the other end of the spectrum, you're like, I got nothing. And so it's for coaching right now, it's like, it's just hard to some athletes need no help at all. Some athletes are just kind of dialed in. This is their way of life. And fitness for most of us is essential. It is a lifeline to giving ourselves, increasing our health, releasing stress, seeing obviously like the healthy benefits you're going to see, not just the physiological gains in fitness. It's an interesting time to be a coach. It has a lot of challenges, but it's a time to be flexible. It's a time to stay on task because, you're never going to waste fitness. You're just going to gain it. You don't want to use it early, but you can at least gain it. I didn't mean to call you out right there, but I just kind of fell into the conversation when I was feeling.
Oh, dude, I love it when you call me out. I don't care because it makes me think for one. But I like other people to know that I'm kind of a inconsistent. You know what I mean? Like we don't sit here and I don't always. I know what's right, but I don't always do it, and I think that it's good for people to hear that too. So you said something about that really stuck out to me. About, this is life's dealing with curveballs. We have to be ready to deal with curveballs because even if you're in a really good groove, you're going really well, something might happen in life, and that's just always there. And it reminded me actually of literally looking at that analogy from a real perspective. Like when I used to step in a batter's box to hit a baseball, I would always look for the fastball. I could always hit the fastball really well. It's the easiest one to hit if if somebody's not throwing 100 miles an hour. But if it's just a normal fastball and they make a mistake and leave it out of the plate, you just are in a groove with that pitch and you're just going down the track and you're training well and you're having a fastball. But when I was in that box, and it's the same thing with training, you always have to keep that curveball in the back of your mind because that curveball is always coming. And you have to be ready for it, and you have to be able to adjust, and you have to have, and that's really like the analogy in the batter's box is being patient. You have to be patient on that curveball because if you jump at it like it's a fastball, it's going to throw you off balance and you're going to get all screwed up. But if you lay back and wait and hit that pitch the other way, that's how you're supposed to handle it. Now, like this is a big curveball. I mean, this is like the biggest curveball. It's almost like a ephus pitch, which is like, I don't know if you've ever seen those, but it's basically when a pitcher winds up normally and just like lobs it. And then, it's like the last thing you expect. So the ball's coming straight down. And it's a weird thing. But so you talk about patience and being ready for that, like I would sit in there and wait on the curveball. I knew it was coming. And I knew it was coming at some point. I mean, if I was on the Houston Astros, I would have known exactly when it was coming because somebody would have been banging on the garbage can or tipping me off. Sorry to throw that in there, Phil, to all my Astro fans. Because seriously. The good news is that everybody's forgetting about the Astros right now, so you're going to be able to come back and hopefully play soon, and maybe it won't be as harsh of a reality. But that's the point I'm trying to make is that you just said it at the end. You have to be flexible and stay on task, and you have to be in a zone and know you're going the right direction. But if you can't adjust to the curveball, you're going to strike out. Or you're going to hit a weak grounder. And we have to be prepared to make these adjustments. And this is like the ultimate test of adjustments, right? Like what are we doing right now that we're going to use in the future? And for me, one of the things I'm doing is just eliminating pollution in my brain as much as possible. That's why I don't watch anything on the news. There's enough people in contact with me that I know what's going on, and I don't feel like I'm ill-informed or, not in touch because, everybody's got an opinion, and I have a few people I trust and a few sources I go to, and I try to stay positive. So, I'm going to go out on a limb here actually and, help you out as a coach and just let you know that Muncie is going to happen for sure. So,
first heard it here first.
That's my prediction. I think that race is set up for the perfect, possibility of it happening.
I actually 100% agree with you. I think Muncie very well has the opportunity to be the first 70.3 that happens. I felt that way for a few weeks. I wouldn't be shocked if there was one before that, but I agree with you. I think its location too is is perfect to have one. It's like it's away from basically civilization in all aspects. Like it's not like smack dab in the middle of some like huge bustling city. It is out in the middle of nowhere in the Prairie Creek Reservoir. The closest like notable thing is Ball State University. So yeah, I do. I think it has a legit shot of happening. There was something you said there when you're talking about you're using your baseball analogy and about being prepared. And I think that's kind of where, and that's kind of the mentality that I've taken with. I mean, because you've got athletes that are on this, I would consider kind of in no man's land. Like when you've got late May, because you have races June, Wisconsin. I mean, Madison 70.3 has yet to be canceled. That's like the first one. You have Steelhead later in the month, and again, I think it's going to be just very dependent on the cities and the states and what those guidelines are and how they're going to kind of make these races happen and when can people swim beforehand. But you have a lot of athletes that are in kind of no man's land with those races. Are they going to happen? You want to keep moving forward. You want to kind of give them a rest break, and then you have athletes that are really got nothing left because their races have already been canceled in May or June or even April. And now there's kind of looking like long term to like, bigger races in August, September, October, or even like November. I have some athletes like, listen, I'm not racing again this year. I don't have the means to do it. I don't have the ability to take travel. My vacation days have been cut. I'm racing at Ironman Florida in November. That's all I got. Those are fairly easy, because you only have one race. You feel like there's a legit shot of it happening. It's going to be a long ways away. So here we go. But then the ones that are right now that are so close in this like that 30, 60, 90 window I was talking about earlier in the podcast is that you just have to stay prepared. Because if you can stay at a level of preparedness, and I often use this analogy or talk about this in terms of making the jump from 70.3 racing to Ironman training or racing is if you're in really, really good 70.3 shape, you really only need, in my opinion, 5 to 7 weeks to bump up to be ready for an Ironman. That's not like a hack. That's not, me giving you a short-term solution or me giving you like way out of doing something long-term. That's obviously that's the opposite of what I preach. But for the athletes that we work with, because again, it's also about what do you consider? Because everything in life is relative. It's what do you consider really, really good 70.3 shape? And to me, that's like if you can do like 3.5 hour, 3.5 hour, really, really hard rides, which again is something that a lot of athletes don't do. They just go out and kind of noodle around with their buddies for 3.5 hours and partake in like 19 rest stops and a smorgasbord of buffet food. Like I'm talking like 3.5 hard rides, like where you're raising up your intensity factor, you're adding in like zone 3, zone 4 work. If you can do a really, really hard 3.5 hour ride to prepare for a 70.3, you can also do a very, very chill 5-hour ride. You just can. From an intensity standpoint and how you're creating stress and how you're creating fatigue, you can handle that because they're going to be close to the same. Again, this is me talking in duration and in time, not in distance. Those are some of the biggest things that catch people sometimes thinking about making a jump. It's like, I've only done like, 15 miles. Now you're asking me to more than double it. That's a different story for athletes that go by mileage. And then same thing for running. Like if you can, for a lot of our athletes for 70.3 run mileage, they're doing 35, 40 miles a week, which is, for a lot of athletes, way more than they're ever going to do for an Ironman. But you can be in that shape, and it's about being prepared, and it's about being sharp. It's not about digging the hole too deep too early. But that's how it is right now for a lot of the athletes that we work with, is that we just want to keep you really, really prepared. We want to keep you very, very fresh. Because what you don't want is to be digging such a huge hole, which a lot of athletes are right now. Because some athletes have extra time to train. So they're, doing, 6, Zwift group rides a week, and they're smashing themselves into oblivion, and then they're running, 4 or 5 days a week, and they're just going to be toast. And then what's going to happen is they're actually going to get, they're going to get that phone call or that email or that text or that Facebook message is going to say, hey man, race is on, see you in a month.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, crap, now what do I do? How do I re-periodize the focus and the training I was supposed to do? How do I reorganize my blocks? And for a lot of athletes, what they're going to be forced to do is just rest, because they're going to have beaten themselves into such a gigantic hole. And so for the athletes that we're with right now, like it's about frequency, 3, 4, maybe even 5 rides a week, 5, 6, sometimes even 7 runs a week. Frequency, keeping it there, keeping the volume there, but dispersed evenly through 7 days. Because we love frequency, we love consistency, we love quantity over quality a lot of the times, even though you can have both. But what that does is that also enables you to cut out a day or two of those 7 days when things start to get real, when things start to get within striking distance, to make them super easy, and then elongate the other times. So you're actually not manipulating too much volume. You're just allocating more stress and building more fatigue on specific days through longer intervals and longer duration than you were over 7. So you're taking 7 days and backing them down to 5. Oh, and then swimming. How are we going to add swimming back in? Like, there's just so many things to take into account. But right now, the best thing you can do for yourself is just be prepared, and that is through staying consistent, staying dialed in on your training, and realizing no matter what, that it matters. No matter if you ever pick up a bib this year, no matter if you toe the line this year, you're going to be in a better space next week, next month, next year, next race season, whatever it is. You're always going to be in a better spot as long as you're doing it with that approach that you were talking about of just being prepared. It's like your baseball analogy. You're saying, well, we all been throwing a curveball. It's like, oh, well, I'm only going to get curveballs, so I'm not even going to step in the batter's box. And then you don't take any swings for weeks and months. Well, the next time you get in the batter's box and get a freebie fastball, what are you going to do? You're going to be late on your swing, you're going to miss horribly, or you're going to totally foul it off, and you're going to miss your shot. You got to stay in the batter's box. You got to keep swinging. You got to keep taking your pitches.
Mm. Yeah, man, what you're saying about being prepared, and I know a lot of athletes love how you coach basically week to week and day to day a lot of times, and you put them in that place where you're thinking about all this stuff we're talking about, so you can take that weight off of their back and allow you, because you're obviously you're talking with so many athletes, and you're kind of formulating a overall guide principle based on a lot of data and a lot of conversations. And so you have insight to things like what you're talking about that others don't necessarily have. So you're taking that guesswork out and everything. And like what I like to think about in terms of is like everybody's kind of worried about, if that race is going to happen and all that kind of stuff. But it's really about being prepared for tomorrow, using today to be prepared for tomorrow. So like if you just take it day by day and, it's an extension of, being ready for the moment or whatever, then it becomes like meditation in motion. You're living your path every day and not worried about something that's 6 months or like a question mark 3 months from now. You're just taking it day to day, and you're on the road you need to be on, and that can be so refreshing, and it can take such a load off. It's amazing how just taking things in little chunks can make something so much more enjoyable or easier. We talk about that in races. Get to the next aid station. Don't think about 25 miles away, because it's going to seem overwhelming. But if you can go from aid station to aid station, or 5 mile mark to 5 mile mark on the bike, or just chunk it up like that, and that's really what's going on. I always get a kick out of the analogies that can be drawn between racing and training. If you want to break your race up like you break your training schedule up, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of really good strategies that can be taken if you just sort of step back and look at it. And that's what you do, is you step back and look at things from the big picture, and hopefully you're able to convey those things to athletes. And to me, that makes training so much more enjoyable and attainable, rather than literally like looking at, I put a training plan in, and just for a teaser, I put in a back time to Ironman Wisconsin training plan just for the heck of it. And it's about 20 weeks out. But if I started looking at, weeks 14 right now, I'd be like, oh, Jesus, man, I don't even want to look at that. But if you build up to that, and you do the best you can today, just so you can get to tomorrow and be successful tomorrow, and keep that trend going. That's really what it's all about. And it's hard to do, and it's really difficult to stay out of the future because there's so many futurists out there that are, planning the end of existence and planning the end of time every day. But that's why I just step back from that stuff. I don't even look at it. And it's just amazing how not putting that in your mind can ease burdens.
And like the other part of it, for like right now especially, is that why would you want to remove an opportunity to add in one thing in your day that you actually feel like you have 1 ounce of control over? Like we're all, for a lot of us, we're reeling in this uncertainty with, managing and trying to navigate different routines, different demands, different stress levels, different routines with, I know we are, especially here at our house, is like finding, like we went from, I was able to work, basically 7:30 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. With no interruptions. Hayden's at daycare. Allie, the same. She could do her work. We're both obviously super fortunate to be able to still, have our jobs right now. We're super thankful for that. But now with Hayden being home, it's like now we have to manage him. And what's he doing? Where is he going? What is he doing? Is he listening? And then making sure he's actually doing some of the stuff he needs to do. And then also making time for ourselves, individually, and then also making time for our marriage and like making sure those things take it. So it's like the amount of the difference that it's had has been tremendous, in terms of the amount of time that we have, and then the time that we do have, it's hard to navigate because it's not like you can go somewhere and like we're going anywhere to work. It's like, okay, well, you go work today out and I'll stay here. We're both here. So if Hayden needs something, he's running upstairs. He's like, hey, Dad, mom said I couldn't have chocolate cake for breakfast and I'm crying. What, can you please help me out here? And I'm like, dude, you're not getting chocolate cake for breakfast, man. Like this is, this is not a discussion we're having right now. And then obviously at least like a gigantic meltdown. You can understand why I can't have chocolate cake for breakfast. That's the life we live right now. But in terms of but for me, the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been maybe about as dialed in as I've ever been with my running, because I'm not going to miss an opportunity to just have it for me. I can walk out the door, I can go for a run, no phone, no music, no nothing. No one can talk to me, no one can touch me, no one can look at me. I get weird looks sometimes, but like you have to have that time. It's like the one part of the day where you feel like you can have that control. This time is for me, and it's going to be good. I'm not going to worry about the pace I run. I'm not going to worry about the result it's going to produce. I'm going to work on the execution and the effort, because for these 45 minutes or for these 2 hours, I can 100% control those two things. And from the time I step back into my house, before I even make it 3 feet back in the door, things are going to change. Someone's going to need something. Got to answer the emails. Got to walk the dog. Got to see what Hayden needs. Got to make sure Allie has time to do her things so she can, get her work done. And she can also have her time to get her things in. Like you're immediately stretched thin. And so if you're not taking advantage of those, even if it's like 10, 15, 20 minutes, like I've even begun to add in a few sessions a week for some athletes. That's just called extra choice day. Like if you, and then usually it's running, because say anything to get them to run more. If it's like, hey, if you just feel the need or want, just get out today and run an extra 20, 25 minutes, then go do it. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you. It's just that's like it's like one of those things. People, oh, you run 8 times a week. I would get so injured. Well, yeah, if you're doing 6, 7, 8 runs a week, and all those runs are 25 minutes to 45 minutes, and they're all separated, no, you're not. I'd rather take that than take an athlete who runs 4 times a week and runs 10 miles, 15 miles, 13 miles, and does them really, really hard. Who would you rather be? But you need to have those opportunities in there to just let them get out and go. And just release, because it allows them also to function better as not just athletes, but as people, as humans, as parents, as spouses, as employees. We need that time. We need that time. And I think one of the negative impacts I think isolation is going to have on some is that people who have been so used to running outside so much or riding outside so much are now confined to being inside. They both, I think, have positives and negatives. I think the biggest one from inside is just a safety thing. And then for bike intervals, I think it's actually better to do inside because you can focus and dial it in. But there's just something about being outside. that just rejuvenates you and energizes you. And that's like the other thing right now is like you need that. That's so crucial and so important is to, as a coach, is to like help as best you can. You can't control it. You can't force it. It's not up to you. It's not your responsibility. But to do everything you can to manipulate the schedule in a way to where you're seeing fitness increase, to where you're managing load. And the biggest thing is that you're setting your athletes up for success. Can you do this? 3 months ago, you could have done this super easy, and it would have been a joke of a week. But now you're at home, your spouse is lost their job, that's stressful, and your 4 kids are at home 24 hours a day. Yeah, training looks a little bit different. So you have to set them up for success, but you also have to manipulate things in a way to where they're at least also giving themselves opportunities to improve and come out of this not just a better athlete, but as a better person and be more well equipped when all this stuff settles and we all get kind of reintegrated back into life. Is like, you got to be like, going back to the preparedness thing, like, you got to be ready. You want to be prepared. And there are so many parallels and so many studies and scientific papers that talk about like the benefits of getting out and moving and exercising and what it does for your mood and what it can do for depression, what it does for, your mind and your brain. Like, that's why you're seeing so many people out there right now that have never been out walking, that have never tried running, that have, getting their 28-year-old, Schwinn bike, out for the first spin. And you're like, man, like, you wonder why they're doing it. It's not just because they, need to get out of the house. It's because they need to feel good. And that's what this time is about. It's being prepared, both as an athlete and both as a person.
Well, yeah, I mean, being outside, the sun, that gives you what you need. It's life, it's light, it's energy, it's vitamin D. It helps build your immune system, which helps you make you feel better, makes you stronger to, get through stuff like this. And, but the reality, dude, is like, I know it's one of those things that's, it's a perspective we have, and I can totally get it though, how, as an athlete and how difficult it is. Can you imagine if, I don't know, say back in December, during the college basketball season, all the teams and athletes were told, yeah, we're not sure if March Madness is going to happen. It's kind of like in the flux right now. How difficult it would have been to keep going with the idea that maybe that would come around. And, it's kind of what they play for. It's a big deal. But in this, in reality, it sort of just happened, like on the spot. There was nothing to do about it. There's no time to think or whatever like that. So I get why it can seem like a daunting task. But you ask, well, maybe they would have just kept plugging away and getting better, And that really is it's pulling away the prize, right? And that's what what you're talking about, is that it's like, if you put too much weight on a race, then, and let that be your why or your driver, then it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get motivated. And that's sort of like, as you mentioned earlier, that's where I struggle a little bit, is like, I like to have, and for lack of a better term, I kind of like to be backed in the corner sometimes. And that's sort of what a race feels like to me. I used to call it the, monster in the room or whatever, the elephant in the room. And it was just sort of always there nagging at me and saying, get out there, dude. You're going to regret it. You're going to regret it. You're going to regret it. And so this has kind of changed my perspective. I have been doing the little things that, I've always sort of wanted to do, which is just, for me, build overall strength. I haven't been going crazy on training, but I've been doing a lot of exercising and things like that really do make me feel good. And it's kind of like slowly rejuvenating me to the point where, I got to the place of putting a plan in yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, it's kind of exciting. And I really do think that, like, I put it in for Wisconsin, but it could be Chattanooga or it could be Louisville. And right now, I'm not pinning on that or anything like that. I just kind of want to find that groove again. And I'm feeling healthy enough to sort of do it. And it feels good, So I totally get how it is hard. But again, man, we just have to do the best we can with what we have. And what we have right now is something stripped away from us, but we also have opportunities. And again, it's just like, can't always get the fastball. Sometimes you got to be ready for the curve or the changeup. And this is definitely one or both of those. So,
see, I think like what you said right there sums it up for me. Because when you say, all we can do is the best that we can, that's every single day. Nothing really of huge consequence or some huge event. Like, if you depend, I know not most athletes look at it this way, but it hasn't like they've taken 3 months of your training away or 9 months of your training away. I think if you would ask, you could put a lot of athletes into a couple buckets. Like, what impact would it have if like this person was like, your race is canceled, it's postponed. Oh, the devastation. Oh, the heartbreak. Oh, the sad face emojis. Oh, I hate racing. Oh, I'm just devastated, the tears. Or I'm going to take away 6 months of training. You can't train at all. You're not allowed to run. You're not allowed to ride. You're not allowed to swim. And guess what? You're not allowed to wake up every day, walk out the door, and attempt to even come close to doing your best. You tell me what's more impactful. That one is. Like, we act like this like huge thing has been taken from us. No, you're only letting something being taken from you if you're letting it impact you waking up every day and doing your best. Because the same, your March, I loved your March Madness analogy. It's like, yeah, let's say you start the season, you put all the, 64 teams, like, well, we may have March Madness and we might not. So you're going to have some coach like, let's just mail it in, do things different, have fun. The next thing you know, March Madness happens and you're not seeded well and you don't have a good team, you haven't practiced well, and you might come out of the tournament early. But you only missed the opportunity. You didn't just miss the opportunity to succeed and be awesome in the tournament. You missed all those practices and all those opportunities in the film room, in the weight room, eating right, sleeping well, getting better. That's what you missed just because you decided that the race was the end-all be-all. You still have. Nothing has been ripped from you. Like, that's like, I think the part of this that just like really rubs me the wrong way. That hasn't been taken from you. Sorry. It hasn't. You can still wake up every day and do your best. Because if you haven't listened, go back and listen to the Mike Riley podcast that we did a week ago today, I think. And he said it, and we said it before many times. It's not not so much about the race. It's who you become along the way. It's like walking up a stage in graduation. I can't remember the analogy he used, but it was something like that. It was that commencement or whatever it was. It was like that's one day. So you're putting all the to do and all the depression, or not depression, but all like the being down about one day, and you're letting it affect the other 100, 200, 300 days that are what really make you who you are. That are really the part of the journey that you should thrive for, that you should look to maintain, that the part of the process that you should want to keep and continue on, because it's about who you're becoming. Like, taking a race away doesn't rob any of that, right? It might delay you picking up your diploma. It might delay you walking on the red carpet. It might delay you crossing the finish line and posting your picture on Instagram. But the only person robbing themselves right now of you waking up and doing your best and getting better is you. None of that has been taken away. Like, again, like, that's the part of this that really frustrates me as just a person, not as a coach, as a person. It's like you're letting, like, we people do this all the time. We let so many other things, and we do this because I think humans are fragile in so many ways that we talk about. In the very beginning of the podcast, talked about looking for excuses, and like right now, like it's not so much looking for excuses, but you're letting other things in life 100% dictate the effort you choose or the things you do or do not do. That's on you. Stop making excuses that it's about everything else. Yeah, we can have bad days. Yeah, once every 2 to 3 weeks, we can, you might need to take a day off, but it's not an excuse every day. It's just not. Get up. Get to work, because I promise you will feel better. I promise you'll be better in the long run. And you don't want to look back and think, where else if you had free time or not free time, or your life is harder now or it's not, or it's easier now. Like, you don't want to waste this time. You don't get it back. You never, ever, ever get your time back. That goes from the 6 years previous to this to 6 years ahead of this. Like, you don't get any time back. You can't bank it. You can't put it away and save it for a rainy day. That's not how it works. So use it and don't take it for granted, and don't let some, circumstance or obstacle in life totally rip it from you or take all the energy out of you that says, you can't really do better because look at all these things happening. Well, you know what? Shit happens. Get up and get to work.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. It's
I lulled you to sleep with my mini rant there, didn't I?
No, I was listening. I was kind of off, and it triggered a little on a thought I had about I was triggered, man. Stop that, man.
Triggered hard.
I was gonna hang up. No, it was. I was trying to, in my head, there maybe make a little parallel between putting the race on such a huge pedestal and like playing the lottery. It's sort of like if you have a dream and you work hard and then you accomplish the dream, it's so much more rewarding. But if somebody just plops, $15 million in your bank account, you're probably going to go nuts. It's like you're going to, the guilt of that, and how people, story after story says that people kind of like it makes them miserable, So it was just making a sort of a parallel between like how the process really is the thing, and how the work and everything it takes to get there becomes the real reward. And like you said about what Mike Riley said, it's not the race, it's who you become going through all of that. It's not just waking up one day and being a multi-millionaire for doing nothing.
It's do you want?
Couldn't quite pull that together though. It's like you just show up in Ironman. You just can't just do it and be a one and doneer like Heinz Ward. Even Heinz worked a little bit. Shot fired. No.
Man, yeah, well, he was a Steeler. But no, I get it. Like, I say that, as a rant, but it's true. Like we all have opportunities, and they're harder than others. But like Allie and I were watching this show on last night, and this person kept saying over and over again, I don't know what's going to happen if I've never lost. I've only ever won. All I do is ever win. I've only ever won. And I just kind of like under my breath, and I said, well, that sucks, because I can't imagine going through life always winning. And I know some people like they say like comments to people like, oh, they've always have it easy. To me, that sucks.
Well, they win because they can hit the curveball.
Well, yeah, maybe. Or they just
I'm just saying, it seems like they're winning because they adjust.
Right, maybe. Yeah, but and then you have, like, we all have obstacles. We all have things to overcome, and, like, that's what shapes us and makes us who we are. Like, we all have down times. We all have down periods. We all have times in our life that absolutely suck, that are absolutely horrid. But if you don't have those, then you don't have to just fight and claw tooth and nail to get back up and to get things moving again. Like, and you appreciate things differently, and you're more apt to not let it happen again. You know how to respond. You know how to keep moving. You know how to persevere. You know not to let the little things bug you. Like, that's what you do. It's not about winning every day. It's not about winning, every single day. You're going to lose some. And in my opinion, if you don't lose some, then you're fooling yourself. It's just how it goes. Like, Al and I know this couple. They're like, we just never fight. Like, everything is just perfect. Like, we just have, like, I don't know, like, what would happen if we ever fought? I'm like, you guys have been married for like 8 years. They're like, yeah, we just never. I'm like, well, you know what? Y'all got secrets. You ain't talking about shit. And I know
that's. I know, right? It's like the guy you see at the bar whose life seems perfect every night because I know, it's like, dude, drunk and
that's
happy.
That's just not how it works, dude. Like, you have fights. Like, and if you don't, then you're keeping things in, and you're just in total denial. So I'm not saying life is perfect, life is easy, because it's not. It's proven to be difficult right now, but it doesn't mean that within that aren't like these gigantic opportunities every day to get out there and to succeed and to do something and to give yourself a win. And if you don't do that right now, and you let 1 day turn into 3, and 3 days turn into 5, and 7 days turn into 8 and 9 and 10 and 2 months and 3 months, it's not going to be like, oh, I look back and I wasted this time in the pandemic, or I wasted this time. No, you just wasted time. You wasted time. And it accumulates. All the wasted time, all the wasted opportunities for the whole of your life, it all adds up. It all adds up. I can speak to you from personal experience. I wasted years and years and years of my life before I got sober. Like, it's so many years but now I look back and I think I don't want to waste a single solitary second.
That's a strong lesson.
Right, it's a strong lesson. It's the loss that turns into a gigantic win. But you just have to get up. Like, so if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast because you're looking for like some motivation or some rah-rah speech or, a quick way to get out the door and, drop your 5K time, well, this isn't it. Sorry. But you can get up. You can get your shoes on. You can get your ass out the door because you need a win today. We all need wins. And you want to just like, you can't let everything and every opportunity, every negative obstacle or chaos that happens in your life rip away the opportunity that you have that is intention and effort to do your best. You can still do that no matter what. Maybe not every day, but 6 days out of the week, probably. 3.5, 4 weeks out of the month, probably. Like, you can make that happen. You just have to focus on doing it, and then what happens is you just continue to gain confidence that you feel almost uncomfortable not doing it because you've become so accustomed to not winning, as in I'm just accustomed to winning the game. You just become accustomed to winning each day, getting out and at least doing something that feels like a win. You're gonna have losses each day. You're gonna have things that are setbacks. It feels like you can't do it, but you can. And you can make it happen if you just get out the door, put in the effort, do the best you can to execute, and do your best.
Well, I hope I didn't waste my time this weekend building our new beginner triathlon guide.
You did. I have perused it, and it is strong, my friend. It is strong.
Thank you.
I've been working on it for the last 3.5 years.
3.5 years, and I basically reconfigured everything this weekend and built it into a digestible online ebook sort of deal. And the reason I did it and we did it is because we want to help, get people into the sport. And we know that you all have friends that may have asked you or been curious about getting into shape. And maybe this is a good time for them to start thinking about it and thinking maybe about triathlon. So I would say maybe in the next day or two, I will post the link in our closed Facebook group, which if you're not in there, you can get in there by searching Crushing Iron Group on Facebook and answer a quick question. We'll let you in. And that group, by the way, I think is at or over or close to 3,000 members. All awesome, great conversation, helpful, supportive room without incessant
without way I go for it. Yeah, there you go. That's true.
And true. Just craziness. So it's a really good, strong group that just helps a lot of people out, and it's a great community. So check that out. Also, if you like the podcast and you've been listening for a while and you would like to dig deeper into some of our philosophies through videos and articles and some bonus podcasts and recorded Zoom athlete conferences and things like that are all loaded with helpful information on triathlon, you can check out our online hub. Go to C26Triathlon.com and click the online hub or drop-down menu. There's a preview there, and you can just sign up. We've got a pay as you want, $9, $29, or $49 through the end of September. And, it's a great way to help us out and help the podcast and support the podcast if you dig it and you're getting some good stuff here. So check into that.
Check into it. If you want to check it all out, yeah. Our one-stop shop is C26Triathlon.com. Let's get all things coaching, community, and camps. Look it up. And then, hey, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Mike. He is at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me, you can always drop me a line, C26coach@gmail.com. And if you like what you hear and you've been listening for a while and haven't done it or need to and want to, drop us a review on iTunes. It helps other athletes find us and will help expand and grow this awesome community.
Yep. All right, buddy. Anything else you got?
That's all I got, man. Just do your best, be your best, try your best.
Okay, that works for me.
All right, man. Good luck with that plan.
It. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, good luck. To me.
See you, dude.
All right, man. See you.
Down, 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 be out.